A very warm welcome, everybody, to the drivers' press conference ahead of the FIA Formula One Canadian Grand Prix. We have our two groups coming your way, as ever. Group 1 with us now. Left of screen, we have Lance Stroll, then Lewis Hamilton and Franco Colapinto. Now, Lance, please, let's start with you. Good to see you. Health update, first of all. How's the wrist?
Thanks. Yeah, it's good to be here. It's good to be home, racing in Montreal. And wrists are feeling good.
Now, we've been told by the team that there was a procedure that took place after the Spanish Grand Prix. Just how confident are you that there won't be a recurrence of the problem that you suffered last time out?
Pretty confident. Should be good.
Why do you say that? I mean, is it because you tested the car at Paul Ricard this week and it passed the test?
Yeah, just because it was bothering me for a few weeks over Imola, Monaco. And then Barcelona was just really, brutal throughout the weekend, and I got the procedure done and drove this week, and I was feeling pretty good, so I'm confident.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what the issues are? Is it lack of movement with the wrist? Can you give us any details?
Yeah, it's just the old injury that I had with it a couple of years ago. Just started to bug me again, and so just got it sorted.
Well, look, very pleased you got it sorted. Let's bring it on to your home race. With the updates that were introduced at Imola a couple of races ago, how confident are you in the car's performance here in Montreal?
Yeah, I'm feeling good about the weekend for sure. I think historically we've been good here as a team. We scored points here the last few times we came here, and it's a track I always enjoy coming back to. So just looking forward to it.
All right, look, very best of luck to you. Just out of interest, when did you first come to the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve?
Long time ago. I was a
little
little
boy, short trousers.
Yeah.
All right. Look, good luck this weekend. Thank you very much. Lewis, let's come to you. Good to see you. Lewis, can we throw it back to 10 Downing Street? You were there last week. Just tell us about that trip, what it was about, and what it was like to go behind that very famous black door of the British Prime Minister.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, pretty special day. I was fortunate to have a call with the Prime Minister and just discussing the work that is needed within education and the work that we're doing at Mission 44, and he invited me down, and I said it's really important that we get young people in the room. So we brought some young students that are working within communities that are suffering in terms of kids getting expelled. So we had all these kids from different backgrounds come in and speak directly to the Prime Minister, and we're working on shifting several policies within education to improve school attendance, reduce exclusions, because I was one of those kids that was at risk of that and did get expelled. And it's just the beginning of the work I think that we're going to be able to do. And they're obviously very focused on improving education in the UK. So it was a really special day. I hope it's not going to be the last time through that door for sure.
What's it like behind the door?
I mean, I think it's a grade 1 building, so it's very old. You walk in and you're like, it needs like revamping, but it's you can feel the history when you go in there. It's pretty incredible. There's a staircase in there. It has all the images of all the prime ministers from back to the early 1800s. So to see that history, and then in the main room at the back where we sat around this table, the biggest decisions, like Winston Churchill would have been sat there making the decisions back in World War II, and so you could feel that, and it was incredible to be there.
The cabinet room. Let's bring it onto the on-track business now. Fred Vasseur said after the Spanish Grand Prix that both cars were carrying an issue. How much was it affecting you in the Spanish Grand Prix?
Massively. And unfortunately the team necessarily don't want us really to talk too much about it, but we both had issues and that were hindering us massively from halfway through the race already. So what I didn't know is whether or not we had that problem, but obviously I said on the radio that it was the worst feeling car that I'd ever had, and it truly was with that issue. And at the end of the race, I was kind of like, geez, I've never experienced something this bad for such a prolonged time through a race. And it wasn't until after the TV interviews I get back to the engineers and we find out there was an issue. So it was a bit of a relief to hear that, because I definitely didn't feel so terrible afterwards.
All right. Thank you, Lewis. Good luck this weekend. And Franco, thank you for waiting. Let's come to you now. It's been a tough few races for you, that triple header. What have you learnt so far during your stint at Alpine?
Yeah, they were tough. They were not of course, maybe sometimes as I was expecting to do a bit more progress after Imola, but it's always tough to get back into F1 after 6 races of not being there. The other drivers learned a lot, tires, management, and when you are not driving, it's sometimes a bit tricky. But I think it was really good this week off to get back with the team, to get back reunited together and understand the issues, understand what we have to do better, where we were lacking some pace and where I can improve as well. So it was good. I think it was a good break, and hopefully it brings some performance for now.
How different is the team, the Alpine team, compared to Williams, where you were at the end of last year?
It's very different. I think, when I came into Williams last year, the only comparison I got was that. I never even drove another Formula 1 car. I didn't draw another car either. So it was my only comparison was that, and I couldn't really compare it to anything else. Whilst now I've got that. In Alpine I'm learning a lot. There is many good things. There is some things that are different. The car is very different to drive as well, and it's just getting up to speed with that and trying to understand what's the quickest way around it.
Well, and what are your expectations here in Montreal? I mean, both drivers on the podium here last year. Is that something
here?
Is that something you can dream of this time around?
Last year, that was Brazil. Here
points, not podiums.
Points. Yeah. Well, points would be great. I think if we can, get back up there, get a bit more of the performance of the car that I'm sure it has, I would be really happy. So I think first we have to start by getting to where we need, focusing on us, and then think about the rest.
All right, best of luck to you as well. Let's now open this to the floor. We'll start with the broadcasters. Who's first, please? Mara.
Mara San Giorgio, Sky Sport Italy. I have a question for Luis. Luis, today 2 important Italian newspapers have attacked Fred, opening some question marks about his future. What do you think about it? What idea do you have about these rumors? I know that you have just arrived in the team, but what moment is the team going through?
Yeah, I mean, I was just made aware of it just before I got here, so I've not read the stories. It's definitely not nice to hear that there's stories like that are out there. Firstly, I love working with Fred. Fred's the main reason I'm in this team and I got the opportunity to be here, for which I'm forever grateful for. And we're in this together. We're working hard in the background. Things aren't perfect, but for me, as I said, I'm here to work with the team, but also with Fred. I want Fred here. I do believe Fred is the person to take us to the top. And so that's that. So it's ultimately it's nonsense what people have written. Most people don't know what's going on in the background, and it isn't all easy. Like it's not like it's all the smoothest sailing in the background. We are having to make changes, and it's a lot of work to do. And there is naturally a lot of pressure because we want to win, but that's not any part of the discussion at the moment. So.
Thanks for that, Lewis. Yeah, David.
David Croft, Sky Sports F1. Another question for Lewis. You've overcome many challenges throughout your 19 years in Formula One, and this year's been another challenge. So this weekend, a track that you love, that you've done so well at, do you need a really big weekend to give you a boost for the rest of the season?
I mean, I don't feel that I'm searching. I mean, of course, a good weekend is always a good thing. But I don't feel like I'm in desperate need of one. I think it looks a lot worse outside than it probably is on the inside. Still, even just coming from engineering now, how they set the car up compared to any other year that I've been here is completely different. And having discussions with engineers to change things, there's a certain way they like to work. It's to say, just hold on a second, that doesn't actually make sense. Like, this is what I've done for the last 17, 18 years here, and it's worked in a lot of them. And so getting those things, consistently working with the team and making sure you're working in a constructive way to make changes. The car is very much as a real sweet spot, and we're trying to get it working at all the tracks, which everyone's having to struggle with. Yeah, I'm hoping this weekend can be strong.
Laurent Dupin from Canal+. A question to Lewis. You have a couple of things in common with Jean Alesi, being a Ferrari driver and having your first win here in Canada, as he did exactly 30 years ago. Do you have any memories about this win of Alesi here, and can you take a few words about him?
What year was that?
Jean Alesi in 95, so exactly 30 years ago.
I don't know where I was then. I was 10. No, yeah, you weren't here. I don't remember watching that Grand Prix, if I'm really honest. Maybe I was racing or something, but I've always been a big admirer of Jean. He's one of my favorite characters of the older drivers. Always been so kind and polite to me, which is not always the case. And then obviously with my my first Grand Prix win here was pretty epic. And I was just talking to my engineers. I just watched the qualifying of 2007 or my lap, for example. And that was actually the race where back then with refueling, the two cars were often separated by a couple laps of fuel. So one car would get the lighter fuel, and I'm sure in some teams it alternated, but because Fernando was the world champion, he'd always get the lighter fuel. And so, you know, I was carrying often a tenth and a bit, probably at least a tenth of fuel every time we went into qualifying up until this race. And I remember arguing after Monaco that I want equal opportunity and equal chance. And they gave us equal fuel, and then I qualified pole and then won my first race. So it was one of those moments where you really have to fight for what you listen to your intuition and really fight for what you feel is right. And that was one of those high moments for me.
Thanks for that. Who's next?
Tom Slade, Federación Spain. Question for Franco. Fran, the first 3 races with Alpine were difficult for different reasons, but now you had 10 days to reflect on them. Can you talk us about the process you had going through your mind maybe during these days, or how was the preparation for this Grand Prix?
Yeah, I think it always helps, you know, to have a little bit of a break after a couple of races. And I think to get in a triple header, it's always difficult because you don't have enough time to change things and to change enough things because... you know, I was used to something so different, which didn't give me enough time, I think, between races to kind of reflect enough on it and learn and understand exactly what we need to do. And yeah, I really trust that. I think this break was really good for us. Hopefully it brings some performance back. And yeah, we can be a bit more competitive. Hopefully I can find a bit that confidence I had in the car, you know, last year and find a way around it a bit more.
Thank you for that.
Question for Franco. Juan Fosoroli from ESPN. Franco, you don't know this track, but last year you did a new Azerbaijan and Singapore, and you performed very well, like also in Austin. Do you think this track maybe suits you a little bit because it's like a street circuit or something like that?
Yeah, we'll see. I think 3 free practice, it's enough to learn the track. Of course, to get up to speed quick, it's going to be very helpful because we have a lot of things to test, and we need that time in the free practice. So hopefully we can get up to speed quick and then see. But yeah, it's kind of a street track, and that always brings a bit more emotion to us, the drivers. And at the end of the day, to drive an F1 around here, such an historic and massive track in the history of the sport, it's very cool.
Thanks, Franco. Any more from the broadcasters? Any more? No more? In which case we will now go to the... Yes, one more. David.
Just a question for Lance. Is it your right wrist that's causing you problems? You haven't taken your hand out of your pocket since you got here, and I wondered if that was a consequence of the wrist injury or what.
Yeah, it's my right one. A little bit, but it's feeling good.
Okay, thank you. Let's now go to the written media, please. Who's first?
Sahil Kapoor, NBC. A 2-part question for Lewis on the movie, if I may. Congratulations on the upcoming release. First, given the immersive nature of filming this at actual F1 races, is this the closest Hollywood has ever gotten to authentically capturing F1 in racing? And second, what tips, if any, did you give to Brad Pitt and Damon Idris to capture the vibe of an F1 driver?
I mean, that was our goal, was to, I don't think in any sport it's been so immersive in the sense of filming on race weekends. I think that's been an amazing opportunity for Joe and for Jerry. I think did such a great job in how they approached it. You know, we barely knew, we kind of, even though they had a whole team here, we were also focused on our jobs, but it was never disruptive to any of us. And I think they captured some really great footage. And we had a bit of a preview for the drivers in Monaco, which was really amazing for us for me to be there. It's naturally it's nerve-wracking because you've worked for so long. You know, it was a 4-year project, and you want everyone to love it. And I think just before we watched it, Harry said, "Look, just remember, we tried to make it as authentic as possible, but this is also Hollywood. So it's the best combination that we could find of both."
And
well, it was just, I remember on the first days that I got to work with Brad, we were at Silverstone. We actually did a bit of a track day together in LA. I got to drive and he drove. And straight away, I already knew that you could sense he already kind of knew where the lines were. He had a bit of a feel for it already, so it wasn't completely alien. You know, I worked as a driver coach when I was a kid just to make a bit of money on the side whilst I was racing, and I had some pretty bad drivers along the way who just didn't know where they were on track. And so straight away, you could see he had a concept of what it is, a driving line. And I actually get to drive on track with Damson, but they both went to training, both super open-minded and really deep dived into what it takes to be a racing driver, which was really cool to see. And I think through that process, it was amazing to speak to Brad to see his shock. He's kind of like, geez, what my body's going through as I'm going through these different categories, and particularly when he got to Formula 2. And he's like, damn, he would text me after the test, like, my appreciation for what you drivers do is even higher than it already was, having now experienced this. So that reflects in the driving in the race.
Thanks for that, Lewis. Okay, next one.
Olivier Laurent from La Presse here in Montreal. Question for Lewis in the back. There are a lot of very young drivers this year on the grid. I was wondering if you, from your point of view, do these kids today face the same challenges as new drivers in Formula One as you did almost 2 decades ago, or is it basically the same?
I don't really know how to answer that one. The times have changed. Say the racing space it's got a lot busier with the fame of the sport, so it's probably got more intense. I'd say maybe media is probably more reactive. Maybe you got social media presence and social line abuse that we didn't have when I got to the sport. So it's been really amazing to see how mature the drivers, the young drivers that have come in, young men that have come in, have adapted and how they've carried that weight, because it's no easy situation to be thrown into. I remember when I got there, it felt like you're being thrown into the deep end, out, and the skills to keep yourself afloat. There wasn't the online stuff that you could see, and that's significant. Probably just even more demands on the drivers today than side of the car, I would say, probably, than there ever was before.
Thank you. Next.
Down Montreal Gazette. Also a question for Lewis. Apart from the racing, what do you enjoy most about coming to Montreal? And what do you think the reaction from fans will be now that you're with Ferrari and there seems to be a passion for that team here?
I look forward to most. I mean, it is one of my favorite Grand Prix. Track is very unique. I think it's coming to Canada. I really like coming to Canada. I've always enjoyed it. Actually, I've always wanted to go to Vancouver, and I'd just come from Vancouver. It's my first time in all these years, and I get to go to BC in the winter sometimes. I know share an interest in heliboarding, so we heliboard and heli-ski, which we're talking about doing it together at some stage. But it's a huge country, but it's got so much to offer. But Montreal specifically for the Grand Prix, I've not been here when it's not the Grand Prix, but Grand Prix is just such a great vibe in the city. Great restaurants. Fans here have been amazing since I started in 2007. Apart from my home Grand Prix, it's been like one of my favorite fan experiences. Maybe because the grandstands are really close to the track. You go to somewhere like Montreal, which is obviously a great circuit, beautiful countryside, but if you go on the track like down to turn 4, the grandstands it's so far away you need binoculars. As we're here, they're right next to you as you're breaking into turn 10. As you're coming through turn 2, they're right there with you, so you get a different sense of that experience. From a driver's perspective, I think it's amazing. You're gonna love it. Yeah.
A different reaction.
Yeah, obviously, I don't really know what to expect with that. I mean, the race that I go to is unique in the sense that it is the first time in the red car at that track, and there's quite a community of Italians here, which I didn't know. So anticipate there'll be hopefully good support here this weekend.
From Argentina, from La Voz del Interior, Franco. Hi, Franco. What you have been you and the team with the car to try to improve the performance of lap races? In the preview of the race, how are your feelings? How do you feel for this new track for you?
Worked in many things. I think generally there is some things setup-wise that have not been working for me. I felt very much out of phase with everything, with like the tools in the car, with the setup, and it was like one thing was fighting the other one. And I think once we understood that after the race in Barcelona, it kind of made much more sense to me. And I think here I arrive with a bit more confidence. I spent a lot of days in the sim and a lot of days in the factory with engineers trying to understand. So yeah, hopefully we made a step. We need that step, so hopefully we can do it here.
Thank you. Next.
David Rouleau, Journal de Montreal. Lance, can you bring us through the process of your 14 past days, please, after Barcelona? What you did and what happened?
I said it earlier, but I'll say it again. I'm in pain for a couple races. Barcelona was in a lot of pain, so I got a procedure done and I'm not in pain.
Next, please.
For the race, one for Lewis. As you said, you want Fred to be there at Ferrari. He's the guy to take the team to the top. How foolish would it be for there to be a change, given how long it takes a team to build up to the front in Formula One, even when there has been a little bit of a bump in the road as there has been this year?
And I don't think that's hard as far as I'm aware, and certainly not something that I'm supportive of. I mean, embedding new people, new personnel, whether it's a driver or whether it's engineers or run an organization, it takes time to adjust. The impact that has is significant. So that's not part of the discussion. I'm here to win with Fred, and he has my full support. And also to all the other, everyone that's writing stories of me considering not racing. And I mean, I've literally only just started firstly here with Ferrari, so I'm here for several years, and I'm here for the long haul. So no question where my head's at and what I'm working towards doing with this team. So there's zero doubts. Stop making up.
This next one.
Medlin from Racer. It's a question for Lance. Lance, in Barcelona, the team suggested that you maybe hadn't let on to them quite how much pain you were in and were trying to just drive through the pain and maybe not worry them. Is that the case? Were you trying to just power on through in that sense, or did they have full visibility of how hard it was for you to drive?
Yeah, I mean, as a athlete in any sport, I think you're always trying to push through, pain, discomfort, as much as you can to and get a good result at, the end of the weekend. Situation, I was, struggling, and I was trying to push through it, but feel sensible to push anymore. Felt like the damage was getting worse, and to do something more serious about it. And that's the thing, I don't really want to get into detail about what I had to do and how I had to do it, and because it's just my medical privacy, and I like to keep that kind of confidential. So, but all I can say for sure is, I'm feeling a lot better. I'm looking forward to the race weekend. Being here in Montreal is always special. He's coming here racing every year. Results over the years, point scoring results. So love coming back here, racing in front of the home crowd, and just looking forward to the weekend.
Thank you. Next.
Nick Smith from The Athletic. Lance, there were some suggestions that you were quite frustrated when you got back to the garage qualifying. Can you talk through what happened when you got back, and was it related to how you're feeling with your wrist?
I was frustrated for sure. About my wrists and the last 3 races from Imola, and it was just inhibiting my driving. So this Sunday was going to be probably impossible, and at that point I was frustrated about it.
Another one.
Diego França, Car Magazine Brazil. Question to Lewis. Lewis, it's been almost 6 months since you are a Ferrari F1 driver. So how life is different for you, and how is adapting, not about the track, but outside the track, and going to Maranello and everything?
See, it's pretty amazing. I'm loving traveling to Italy. I haven't yet found a spot there. I haven't made a decision exactly what I'm going to do, but lacking in the lingo area, that's something that's still thinking about. I love going to Maranello. It's the more and more I see of Italy, the more you fall more and more in love with the place. With the culture, with the buildings, the architecture, there's a real romance feeling when you're in Italy. It's they make the famous pasta somewhere nearby. Yeah, I don't know if I've seen I don't know if I've had that one.
It's good.
Is it?
Yeah,
You've been there?
No.
Oh, okay. For me, it's the pizza that I love particularly. But no, like honestly, there's been a whirlwind of a year in the sense that I've got great new brand partners that I'm working with. I'm working on new projects. I've just released my second collection with Dior, which I'm really proud of. Check it out online. Something I'm really it's taken a long time to work on. It's business ventures that are going really well. So they're like generally outside of the racetrack is going amazing, and I'm working as hard as I can to make sure that's reflected also in my results. So I couldn't be happier in that respect, but at the front, obviously. Generally, we need to bring more performance to our car. We've had one upgrade in Bahrain. Soon we'll have another. Also in that period where we obviously have to start working on next year's car. The car I'm racing right now is not a car that I've had input in being and evolving over the past 4 years. I'm driving a car that Charles has obviously been a part of developing very, very well. Has its challenges, but I'm enjoying that challenge.
Thank you for that. Thank you to all 3 of you.